W.O.R.K.S. We're very excited to have you, and we're going to be sharing some interesting new developments in the personal development world. Namely, I'm going to share with you a little bit about a brand new seminar coming out called the Personal Power Mastery Seminar. But before we do, get settled, get yourself a pen, and we're going to share some very extraordinary information that you're going to want to take notes on. One of the things that I've always found that's attracted me to the personal development industry as a teacher, but also as a student, is just really the ability to change our lives immediately just by changing the things that we think about. And naturally, what we think about affects everything, our beliefs, our values, our actions that we take, and so forth. In fact, one of my favorite sayings that you've probably heard before says that actions speak louder than words. You've heard that, right? But I'm a firm believer that being speaks even louder than actions. You see, when we are the right thing, we do the right thing, and we get the right results. But this idea of being actually starts originally even with our thoughts, so we can go even further back than that. So it's interesting, there was a study that I was reading recently that said that on the average day, the average person has about 70,000 thoughts in a day. It's overwhelming. Now, I really honestly wonder how they came up with that idea of 70,000. Like, I can kind of imagine that there was a man with one of those little clickers that counts the numbers standing there, and every time he had a new thought, he clicked it. I'm not sure if that's how it worked, but that would be very strange to think that, because that would take a lot. But they estimate that we have 70,000 thoughts in a day. So it's quite overwhelming if you think about it. But the part of that study that most people forget about, that they haven't seen, is that they estimate that out of those 70,000 thoughts that we have every single day, 70 to 80% of those are either negative or what they call neutral. Very few of those thoughts are in fact empowering and leading us to our goals. Now, before I get into the kind of thinking that we need to develop, let me just share very quickly with you what I mean by negative or neutral. And quite frankly, there's also two other kinds of thinking that we don't talk about. You see, most times people talk about either negative thinking or positive thinking. In fact, there's a lot of books that are out there that talk about the power of a positive mental attitude or positive thinking, and that's definitely valuable. That's the kind of thinking that you want to strive for. But it's not just limited to those two, and so I want to clarify to explain what the four kinds of thinking are, so that you can use that to your advantage and your benefit. I like to kind of use the analogy of maybe scuba diving in water. And if you've scuba dived before, you know there's a principle called buoyancy. Now, buoyancy basically refers to an object's ability to float at the top of water, to be in the center of the water, or to sink to the bottom. Okay, so buoyancy is something's ability to float, like to the various degrees it does. And we can use that analogy when thinking about, thoughts, how we think, what we think about. You see, if something is negatively buoyant, it sinks right to the bottom. And that's kind of like negative thinking. When we think negatively, it doesn't empower us in any way. It doesn't give us any kind of value or return. It doesn't help us to become better. In fact, most people, when they get to negative thinking, if they stay there long enough, they ultimately become very depressed, very discouraged, very defeated, and they aren't really able to achieve their goals or the successes that they like to create in their lives. Now, the truth of the matter is I want to be honest here, a lot of people that are in the personal development world teach that you've got to be positive all the time. But I'm here to tell you that's not always possible. So occasionally you are going to hit negative thinking, and we need to have correct expectations that from time to time that may happen. It's just kind of part of being human, right? So when that happens, don't panic immediately. Just recognize it for what it is. Reaffirm that that's not where you want to be, and get started again. So negative thinking is the bottom level. The next kind of level is what they call neutral thinking, and that's kind of whether you're not at the bottom, but you're also not at the top. You're just kind of floating there along. And quite frankly, that's where a lot of us spend our time. In fact, psychologists also call that ritual tendencies or habitual thinking. Things that we just kind of do day to day because our habits have led us there, and we're not really thinking about it in great detail. You know, maybe you've experienced this as you've been driving your car down the road, and all of a sudden you knew you needed to take a certain turn off, but your mind was elsewhere, so you just kept going and you missed the turn off. Well, that's your ritual tendencies and your habitual thinking taking place, because you're normally doing what you always do without really putting thought into it. Another place we sometimes see this is if you run into the supermarket to grab yourself, let's just say a thing of peanut butter. Well, most people, when they come to get the peanut butter, they select something that they've always selected, and that's the one that they grab, regardless of what other options are there or whatever is on sale or whatever. That's what they grab, and that's where they wind up. So we've got to be aware that ritual tendencies and that habitual thinking, oftentimes, they don't really always take us immediately to the negative, but they also don't get us our results. Now, I do want to mention something about that idea of they don't always take us to negative. The truth of the matter is in time they will. And maybe you've seen this in the life of individuals that you might know that sort of they don't really get to the goals they want. They don't really get the results they want. They're satisfied to just live the day-to-day that they always do. It's my 9-to-5 job. I wake up, I go to work, I take my lunch break, I go back to work, I come home, I watch TV, and I do this day after day after day after day for years and years and years. Well, ultimately, that kind of neutral thinking, that ritual tendency eventually does cause us to feel negative, and so we eventually go down. What do they say? That every river eventually flows downhill. So that's what happens in that circumstance. The final two that I'd like to speak about are a little bit more empowering. The next one is called positive thinking. That's the next one up. And we've heard about positive thinking. I do want to state that obviously positive thinking is far more powerful than any kind of negative thinking that we can do, and it definitely provides better results. But here's the challenge. It's still floating in the water. In other words, it's still in the water. You're still getting wet. And if you've ever talked to somebody who's a positive thinker, you'll also notice that they oftentimes require an emergency or a challenge in order to think positive. In other words, they think to themselves, darn, I lost my job. Let's look on the bright side. Now I can go look for another job. Or, darn, my spouse is leaving me. I'm getting a divorce. So therefore, look on the positive side. Or, I'm going bankrupt. Look on the positive side. And so they always need that negative to create a positive situation. You see what I'm saying? So in some ways, they still find value out of struggling through negative situations. And what do we call a person who finds value in negativity? It's still being a victim. So even though you're positively thinking, you still require a challenge to respond to. So it's obviously better than negative thinking, but it's certainly not the most empowering kind of thinking. The most empowering kind of thinking is, in fact, even a level up, in fact, above the water, outside the water. They're not attached to outside circumstances. They don't let that water around them control how they think or how they feel or what they do. And that kind of thinking is called empowered thinking. Now, over the last several years, I've had the chance to interview more than 400 of the world's top achievers. Some of these people were Olympians who had won gold medals, some who had been professional athletes, some who were celebrities at the top of their game, some were business leaders, and people who'd made an incredible amount of money and difference in their community, people who were humanitarian leaders, people that had served the community and made massive differences. And I guess I'm here to tell you that the big difference between them and most people, and the difference that you can make for yourself, is that they were not consistently negative thinkers, they were not consistently neutral thinkers, and they were not settling to be just a positive thinker. They were an empowered thinker, which means that they actually deliberately created the future that they wanted. They actually went out and made plans ahead of time rather than being reactive to what was going on for them. And they built their life around what they actually decided they wanted long before they got there. And so my challenge to you today with this video that we're doing and this interview that we're doing on the radio is to start making some decisions ahead of time. Decide what you want for your life. Decide the kinds of things that you want in the major areas. Your abundance, your relationships, your own personal health, your connection to yourself and your feelings of self-worth and self-confidence. And lastly, even your spirituality. All of these things can be decided, and you can ignite them to the degree that you choose. You can tap into your brilliance to the degree that you decide. And as you do that and start making proactive decisions to get there, everything will change. Now, in our seminar called the Personal Power Mastery Seminar, we teach some strategies on how not only do you make these decisions, but how can you make decisions that stick? Because it's a lot easier to say than it is to do. I think we understand that. But when we understand how our brain makes decisions and how we can choose for ourselves the actions that we want to take, we can start being consistent to really achieve and find the things that we want more than anything else in the world. So I want you to take a quick thought, and we'll maybe do an example. So I want you to think about maybe in the areas of abundance in your life. And I want you to think about where you're currently at right now. Are you happy with the amount of time and money and opportunities that are flowing to you? Are you happy and excited to earn your income every day? Are you finding fulfillment in tapping into your brilliance and the legacy that you have in terms of, again, abundance? Do you have that, I guess, not just finances, but everything that allows you to live your life on your own terms? Okay, now if you find yourself lacking, I want you to think about what the ideal would look like. What would it look like to have everything that you wanted right now? All of the abundance, everything flowing towards you. Okay? So what I generally ask people to do is, in fact, at this point, take out a piece of paper and with a quick 60 seconds on the clock, write their top 10 goals in that area of abundance. And you'll see that it will coincide with, again, what that ideal looks like for you. Now, when you have that ideal identified, we're just going to do one quick principle here called the law of probability. The law of probability actually states that, whatever is probable is most likely to happen. In fact, the law of probability originates back from the days of Socrates. And what he kind of used to illustrate this is the idea of a target. That a target or a bullseye would be across the way, and a person could shoot a bow and arrow at it from a far distance, but with every step that they took closer, that distance would decrease, and of course the probability of them of hitting a bullseye in the center of that target would increase. And so one of the things that I teach my students is that goal setting, the goals that you've just kind of assigned for yourself in the area of abundance, that one thing that we talked about that you want to achieve, it's not just a matter of writing it down and setting a date as a goal. It's a matter of how do I increase the probability by taking a step forward. And with every step that you take forward towards that goal, your chances to achieve it increase. Now, there's three primary areas I like to tell people to look at when increasing their probability. In other words, increasing the chances that you can get to that goal. And this is what I would suggest. Number one, look at the people you're surrounding yourself with. You've heard it said that your network equals your net worth. Well, I'm going to also suggest that your net work is also a safety net that can support you and help you towards getting to your goals. So by the people that you meet, you're taking a step forward towards your goals. It's interesting, it's also been said that your life and your whatever it is, finances, relationships, health, everything, is actually the median or the center of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So naturally, by taking a step closer to your goal, by putting yourself next to the people that are already doing what you want to do, you'll find that you vastly improve your chances that you're going to be likely able to achieve that same goal. I also find it interesting that the top way to get to your goal as quickly as possible is to imitate those already doing it. So this idea of surrounding yourself with the right people is essential. So that's step number one to increasing your probability to getting a goal. That is, increase the quality of the people around you. Number two has to do with what you know and what you can learn. It's interesting that some people feel that by meditating and reflecting and pondering on their own business or their own personal life, that they can immediately come up with all the answers that they need to solve the problems that they'll encounter there. And I admit, to a degree, there will be some solutions that will come to you. But here's the challenge, folks. If you've never earned more than, say, $1 million per year in your business, it doesn't really matter how much you meditate about $1 million, you'll not be able to do it. There's certain things that you'll have to learn and certain skills that you'll have to develop in order to get to that $1 million level. In fact, if you look at the last 4 letters of the word earn, they're actually the last 4 letters of the word learn as well. So in other words, in order to earn it, you have to learn it. It takes time to get those skills. So you'll have to go to the right places to learn that as well. In fact, it's interesting, one of my friends that I interviewed recently for our movie, The Treasure Map, which deals about the mindset of abundance and how we tap into our greatest wealth, actually said something interesting this way. He said that if a person is lucky enough to win the lottery and gain $1 million, they better learn how to become a millionaire very quickly, or they won't keep that money very long. And I think we've seen that example with a lot of people who've won money very quickly, but they didn't have the knowledge or the skills on how to manage that money. They didn't know how to become a money strategist, and so therefore that money was taken away very quickly and given to somebody who could, or rather who valued the idea of managing the money effectively. What do they say? That money always flows from those who value it least to those who value it most. And so if you learn those skills on how to value it and honor it appropriately, it will come. So that's the second way to increase your probability. And the third I'm going to say is geography. Geography, what do you mean? Where I'm at today really makes a difference? It absolutely does. And you know, it's really funny that one of my friends, Brian Tracy, once said it this way: if you want to double the amount of clients you have and double the amount of business that you have, double the time you're spending with people face to face. Now, of course, I recognize it is possible to do business online and from your computer and at home, just like what we're talking now. But there are certain things that you will have to leave your home for, and you'll have to connect with people geographically to make things happen. Let me use an example. One of the things that I'm very passionate about, obviously with, you know, the Treasure Map movie and the other two movies I've done, the Opus and the Gratitude Experiment, one of the things I'm passionate about is movies. And I've got several students that are in fact involved in the movie industry. Well, one of them was very involved or interested to get involved in big Hollywood films, but he lived in a very small town in Canada called Red Deer. Well, interestingly enough, no matter, you know, as we talked with him, no matter how much he wanted to get involved in a Hollywood movie, he was limited by the number of movies that came through his small town of Red Deer. So in other words, to be successful, he had to relocate. And sometimes you're going to have to do that too. You're going to have to get up off the couch, shut off the TV, and head out to either an event or seminar to meet people, a networking event somewhere to meet people, or you might even have to get on a plane somewhere to go and seek business in a community other than your own. In fact, it's funny, since September, and what are we now? I think, just looking at the calendar, June 1st, I've actually traveled to the United Kingdom, I think now 11 times to do business there. Now, for those of you who know, I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So to get to London, that's a 9.5-hour flight. So I've done that 11 times. What's that? That's maybe, I think it's 10, maybe 12 months. So almost every month this year, I've taken a 9-hour flight. That's both ways, 9 hours both ways, to go and conduct business and meet people. And by the way, I'm coming back to the UK at the end of this month as well, on June 25th and 26th. So you have to be willing to relocate to new locations to make things happen. It's not a matter of waiting for your ship to come in. There's the old saying, sometimes you have to swim out to the ship. Now, in conclusion, I just want to finish here on this program as we go with a thought from a friend of mine. He expressed this to me. His name was Sid Ridgely, and I find that this comment that Sid shared is really, to me, a strong truth. And so up until you know, this last little segment here, we've talked about the power of thinking, how you can think better, to think at a level that's empowering, and not let yourself just be bound by positive thinking. You have the power to do it. And we've also talked about the law of probability. 3 things that you can do to get to your goals. Increase the people around you, like the quality of them, to also increase, of course, the knowledge that you have, and to lastly, reposition your geography. I'd like to finish now with Sid's story, and naturally we also hope to see you out at one of our personal power mastery events. But the reason I like to share Sid's story in conclusion is there's some of you that are out there listening that maybe feel like you're not in the best of circumstances. Maybe some things have gone wrong in your past that you're suffering the consequences of right now. Maybe there's been, you know, a difficult financial situation. Maybe you've lost your job or your home. Maybe you're struggling with challenges of, you know, abuse that you've been through, or maybe a bad relationship, or, you know, a variety of things. Again, maybe you're just not having the ideal moment right now, and it doesn't feel encouraging, and you're listening to this personal development philosophy and theories, and you're saying, well, that might work for someone else, but it doesn't work for me. I want you to listen to this story because there's a lot of truth to it. So Sid was speaking in a very small town one time, and after the event, he and his wife decided to walk through the town and see what this town had to offer. Well, they had a very, very small, old department store. And, well, Sid wasn't interested, but his wife was, so she went inside. He decided to sit down on the bench out front of the store, and as he sat there, there was an old-timer that came up and sat down beside him. Well, after talking a little bit about the weather and trying to make conversation, Sid turned to the old timer and he said, "What's this town famous for?" Well, the old timer turned to him and said, "Heck if I know, but one thing's for sure, you can go anywhere from here." And I think that that's true with our lives too. No matter where you've been in the past, no matter what's happened to you and what you're experiencing in the moment, you can go anywhere from here. You're just one decision away from a brand new life and brand new possibilities. I want you to remember that. And it's been fun being with you on Radio Works today, and I look forward to connecting with you again in the future. I'll turn it back over to you guys. Have a great day.
Wow.
Wow. This was a moment when I felt that you have to start issuing a license for abundance. You see,
Definitely
like
true.
DVLA in England, they issue the driving license. I think you should start straight away. This is what where we are going from here. We are going to pass the abundance license. Start issuing them.
Fab. Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, Natasha, I see that we've got a note here from one of our folks in the audience asking when our next event is and how they can reach us. Probably the best way to do that is go to our website, douglasvermeeren.com. That's www.douglasvermeeren.com. And there is a list of various events that we have throughout the world. There's actually really 3 different kinds of events that we offer. We offer one for speakers called High Profit Speaker, and I'm coming back to the UK in London on the 25th and 26th of June to offer High Profit Speaker right in London. And then I also offer something called Your First Millions on the Way, which teaches about wealth and wealth strategies. We don't currently have a London or UK date for that, but we've got several in North America. In fact, in Las Vegas, we're going to be doing one at the end of July, July 30th and 31st. And then, of course, the program we're talking about, the Personal Power Mastery. The next time we're going to be coming to the UK to do that will be in September. And in fact, I just did a deal yesterday. We're still trying to figure out the date, but in September we're going to be showing our Treasure Map movie in London. The tickets will be free. And for those that come out, we'll obviously have some of the speakers from the film there. I'll be there, and of course we'll be talking about some of the other events that will be in the near future. We don't have who's confirmed yet to come, but just to let you know who's in the film who might be there, and this is a very strong possibility. In the film we've got John DeMartini, who you saw in The Secret. We've got Laurel Langmeyer, who you saw in The Secret. People like Raymond Aaron, who you may know as the author of Branding for Dummies. We've also got people like Randy Gage, who is really well known in the network marketing community as a top leader. Myself and Stefan Arnio, who is considered the Rich Dad, Poor Dad award winner for Canada. And also Darren Jacklin, who is an award-winning motivational speaker. So it's going to be an incredible lineup. The film is super fun. We actually just showed it last week in Canada, and it was a sold-out crowd. We had an awesome time, and so we'll be bringing it back to the UK. As I mentioned, tickets are free. We'd love to have you, and naturally, when I have those dates, we'll be posting those on the website.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic, and what an amazing offer, a free film. And I know this is a really fantastic film because I had a sneak preview courtesy of your beautiful self, and thank you so much for that. It is something to be not missed at all. It takes you to the next level after The Secret and shows you all the tools and techniques to actually implement what you've learned, right?
Excellent. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely true.
Oh, that's really fantastic. So you've got lots of exciting events coming up. You've got your first million on its way, soon to be coming to the UK. Please say it's very soon. I can't wait to get on that. And you've got Personal Power Mastery in September this year. Keep us posted on that one, Doug. That's absolutely fantastic. And also High Profit Speaker, which is this month, right? In London.
It is this month, and I think we've got maybe 3 or 4 spots left for it. If someone's interested in getting involved in that, probably the best is to message us through one of my assistants, which would probably be best to touch base with Rachel. Rachel at douglasvermeeren.com is her email, and that's RACHEL at Douglas, my name, Douglas Vermeeren, V as in Victor, ERMEEREN.com. And I guess just to kind of share a little bit about what we're doing in High Profit Speaker is I've been very successful as a personal development speaker. In fact, in my first 6 months, we did $1.6 million. And I've put together several top personal development films, like we mentioned, The Opus, The Gratitude Experiment, and The Treasure Map. And as a result, I've been able to JV with speakers like Bob Proctor and Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen, and I've shared the stage with people like Deepak Chopra, and I mean, we've done some incredible stuff. So what I'm going to do is actually teach you how to do that, because I believe that there's a lot of speakers out there that have amazing content. They've got really great stuff to teach. They're powerful, they're energetic, they're exciting, but no one's really heard of them, and their business isn't really doing what it could be doing, and they would like to get their message out on a grander scale and expand that. And naturally, if you don't make a profit, you don't get the privilege. So I'm going to teach you how to do that and make those connections. And that's June 25th and 26th. And I'll mention that this is something we probably won't offer in the UK very often. So it's a very rare thing that we're going to do. So if this is for you, let us know, and maybe you can take one of our final 3 spots.
Wow, yes. Well, I think I definitely want one of those spots. Definitely count me in. You've only got 2 left now.
Oh, funny. Yeah, it's a blast. We have a really good time. But come prepared to work hard, because it's not something where you just sit and passively listen and take notes. Your business is going to change that day.
Yeah, no pain, no gain. You know what they say. If it's
there you go.
Do it. Oh, you know what, Douglas, I'm so blessed to, that you said yes, and that you came on the show and you had this opportunity to host a show. And thank you so much for your time. I know how busy you are, flying all around the globe, and I know you're flying off again tomorrow. So we only managed to squeeze you in today by juggling loads of stuff around. So thank you so much. It's great to hear where you're at and catch up with you. And please, we would love you to come back and share more with our audience all over the world.
Thank you.
The next events, if you're happy to do that.
Oh,
no
of course. I'd be happy. And naturally, there's lots more great stuff that we learned when we interviewed the 400 top achievers, and things that have changed my life and the lives of my students. And I'm excited to teach it and share it. It's amazing stuff.
Yeah, these are all real changes, and I think that's the important thing. It's not just talk. It's that people who have something about them that they really want to change and they really want to make big differences in their lives. Yeah, have the thoughts. Yes, write it down. Have the desire, but also to take the next first step, each day towards that goal, because that's one way of getting closer and ultimately reaching it. So thank you so much for everything you've shared, all your wisdoms. You're very generous.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome.
Goodbye.
Bye. Have a wonderful day.